What's up, Thumpers? Day 2 of Comic-Con yet again for us. We are here to do more panel recaps for you guys. We had the pleasure of being in the Universal Pictures panel. Now, we're not going to be talking about Glass and Halloween. We're going to treat them separately because Glass has a trailer, so we're going to do a trailer reaction to the Glass trailer.
Yeah.
And then talk about that. We want to focus on Halloween. This was a highly anticipated panel for me.
Best
I think for
panel of the
Cameron
night.
as well.
Yep.
This was definitely like the panel that I came to Comic-Con. This is kind of the panel that I came to Comic-Con for. I know a lot of times, we go and we cover Warner Brothers, and that's really a big panel. We've kind of been doing Warner Brothers sort of every single year since we've been covering Comic-Con, so I'm excited for it. But the fact that we got to have Halloween come back for the 40th anniversary to sort of present something new at Comic-Con, Jamie Lee Curtis talked about that, was really special. So we got to the panel, and first things first, Yvette Nicole Brown was amazing. She was moderating the panel. She absolutely killed it. It was great. She did such an incredible job sort of keeping the hype up, keeping everybody energized and having fun.
Jamie Lee Curtis was dropping some gems.
Oh, man.
She was like,
preach.
I didn't know we were going to go to church today.
Oh, man. I was in love with it. It was so good.
Yeah.
And I think what that did for the Universal Pictures panel in particular was it really just kept a really positive, exciting vibe. And the whole audience was experiencing that. And everybody seemed to have a really good time. So the panel starts. She brings out David Gordon Green, the director-producer, also a co-writer on the movie. Malik Akkad, who's been a producer on the Halloween movies, or the last few Halloween movies. His father, Mustafa Akkad, was the producer of all the originals leading up to, I think he passed away right before H2O.
I don't know.
No,
I don't know.
Or
any history
Halloween.
of
He
that.
died in a terrorist attack in the 2000s.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was after that. So it was basically once they got through the original series, I guess you could say, before they rebooted it.
Okay.
Then they also brought out Jason Blum, who's a producer from Blumhouse, and of course Jamie Lee Curtis, who's playing Laurie Strode.
The original
Huge,
Scream
thunderous applause for her because yes, she is the original Scream Queen, coming back 40 years later to return to the role of Laurie Strode.
Yep.
And the thing that I really liked that they discussed was sort of like, well, you're kind of ignoring the other Halloween movies and you're doing this sort of new, unique take on it.
Right.
Picking up sort of where the first movie leaves off.
Right.
And I think the first thing that they address, what I really liked was like, yes, we are taking place after the original Halloween, but there are many moments in this movie that pay homage to the other 8-9 movies that came before this.
Yes. That.
For you, Cameron, being a huge Halloween fan also,
Yeah.
Is that something that is exciting to hear?
Yeah.
Depending. In all honesty,
Yeah.
the Halloween series to me is an interesting series. Like, I think the first one is hands down the best one. I like part 3, which I know a lot of people hate because it's kind of after. That's the non-Michael Myers one when Carpenter wanted to turn it into an anthology series and didn't do well. And I think if a lot of people go watch it now, they might really enjoy it. And I kind of, in all honesty, I kind of think that might have been a good way to go with this series because after part 3, to me, it gets very boring. And that's sort of the difference. Is like the good thing about Nightmare and Friday the 13th is those series get kind of bonkers and crazy.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Absolutely bonkers and crazy.
It's like there's kind of a fun in that, like the stupider they get, the fun they get.
Whereas the goat peeing fire,
oh, it's so good. Or like Jason going to space or all these other things.
Yeah.
Whereas like Halloween, they just continuously, because Michael Myers is supposed to be just a dude, there's some crazy stuff that happens, but for the most part, it's just a lot of people trying to do John Carpenter.
Yeah.
And, despite some of the talent who did work on those movies, other effects or writers or anything like that, none of them could match Carpenter, so you're kind of just retreading.
Yes.
Here's Michael Myers going in a
Guy
house.
in a mask.
He's going to go to a house and he's going to kill this person who's related to him. He's got Michael Myers. He's going to go into this house and try to kill people who's related to him. There's not really a big
grab a
bump.
knife. Yep.
The biggest bump thing they try to do. I mean, the one fun thing is watching Donald Pleasance get crazier and crazier. So, all that said, as far as like homages to the other Halloween movies, unless it's part 3, I'm kind of like, ugh.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about you? Like, you are coming into this. You've seen the first one.
Remember
that
wasn't the first time I saw it when we saw it outside.
Right. We went to the Street Food Cinema.
Yes.
We saw it. Yeah.
That was the first time I appreciated it, though.
Right.
That movie was. I mean, it is still a masterpiece of horror. Like it is a bar to be set and to be jumped over. Now, what I really like from this panel is that I feel like they recognize that, and Jamie Lee Curtis is in a place right now where I feel like she has a lot to say, which means a lot to me. Like she's got a message that she wants to deliver. Now, whether the movie production company can deliver that, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
But I don't doubt Jamie Lee Curtis's passion and heart whatsoever for this.
Right.
I feel like she's going to give it 100%. And I feel hopefully the energy that she gave us in the room today comes across in the movie, because if it's even a fraction of that, it's going to be awesome. Yeah. Because she lit up the entire room. Like, whenever she spoke, she was on fire.
Well, and the way they talked about it too made it sound like it was going to be much more of a and this is where I kind of thought it felt like an homage to Carpenter. So they showed us a scene from the movie, and then they showed like what was essentially like the trailer with a couple different things. And one of the things they showed in the trailer was almost her like fortifying her house.
Yeah, there was like
kind of set this thing up,
gates
and I
falling,
saw that, and I'm
guns.
kind of like, oh, they're not just doing Halloween; they're also doing like other Carpenter, because Carpenter's two things were either horror or siege movies, like Assault on Precinct 13. Prince of Darkness, like these kind of like you are trapped in a thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of like, man, if they make this like a siege movie on top of Halloween, that'd be really dope.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
yeah,
even listening to David Gordon Green, sort of like how he pitched it to Carpenter, and he's like, well, what do you want me to do? The music, what kind? Oh, Halloween, but then also like mixing in music from like other movies.
Yeah, from like Big Trouble in Little China.
Christine.
Yeah, Christine. Yeah, exactly. So it's like taking, and so I think that like I feel like this movie, yes, it's very much for them, it's a sort of I don't want to say it's a reboot. It's a sequel. It's a sequel to Halloween, but it's also paying homage to John Carpenter as a creator.
Yes.
And not just like, paying homage to John Carpenter's Halloween, but it's also like, what's sort of been John Carpenter's influence in horror as a genre,
and not trying to copy him
exactly, and sort of being like, we love the things that you've done, we want to pay respects to that in this movie, but also tell a really interesting and intriguing story about this woman who is basically suffering from PTSD. She met Michael Myers when she was like 17 years old. And this movie is very much about like, what are the repercussions of that? She spent 40 years dealing with like random relationships and sort of having to deal with this trauma. What has that caused with the relationship between her and her daughter? I think her daughter's name is Karen Strode in this movie. And then her granddaughter Allison. And what's sort of come of that? They explained that the daughter who's played by Judy Greer, was taken from her at a young age. And Jamie Lee Curtis, which I love, she was like, imagine going to that parent-teacher conference, and the first thing that Laurie Strode asks when you sit down, so what's the exit strategy?
What
if something
is your
happens,
exit
how do we get out of it? What's the exit strategy?
Yeah.
And I love that, because to me, that feels very natural and a very realistic way of portraying that.
I like the fact that she caught herself kind of tripping up. She's like, what is your exit strategy? What happens when Mike? And then she like stops herself. Like, oh shit, that's what she's worried about. She's not worried about anything else that happens at school.
It's Michael Myers coming back.
Myers coming back for her kid.
Exactly.
That's the place that I like that this movie is coming from.
Yes. Yeah. So I thought that was a really nice touch to really explain that. And David Gordon Green, a lot of people will think of him mostly as the guy who directed Pineapple Express. And he's done other things, like Stronger is a movie he's done. So he's a director.
He's got movies. I think the funny thing is, like, I think people forget when he was doing Pineapple Express, that was weird, because he's an indie guy who came from, he did a great movie called George Washington that's on the Criterion Collection that I recommend people check out. He did like a lot of like wonderful small little character movies. So then when he did the Seth Rogen comedy, a lot of people were like, what? And then
I think you're right, but I also think that it was a very small group of people.
Oh, 100%. I mean, 100%. But I think like, so now, to me, it was like, oh, that's kind of cool, because here's a guy who's playing in different genres.
Yes,
they just don't. I don't think most people don't know he has played in different genres.
Yeah, I agree. So let's talk a little bit about this footage that we saw.
So dope.
This was really, really cool. And the thing that Cameron said immediately was like, the fact that it is almost all shot as a single take.
I think it is. I don't think there's any.
I think the whole first sequence was
so cool. And I think famously, one of the things that David Gordon Green, a lot of people have asked him about, the opening of the movie, it's all done in a single take. And you go around across the street, around the house, in the back, through the kitchen, up into the bedroom. So, and I think like, and when he has been asked that, he's previously said like, well, I think if you love that sort of stuff, and if that sort of evokes the vibe of the shape sort of lurking around and going through these locations, and essentially kind of haunting people and killing people and all that stuff, we hope that we can deliver on that. And the first thing that we see is this one take of Michael Myers basically running into these kids. He turns, he goes into the back of a house, and it very much feels like the beginning of Halloween 2 when he goes into like the driveway into the back of the house. The girl comes out, and he kind of hides in the corner. But this just continues going. It keeps going. It keeps going. And we get a very much, when I brought up the thing about the homage, there is a scene that feels very much an homage to Halloween 2, which wasn't directed by John Carpenter, but he still wrote it. It's directed by Rick Rosenthal. But the scene famously of Michael going into the house while the wife is making the sandwich for her husband, she walks over to the TV to pay attention to what's happening on the news. Michael in the background picks up the knife, hears the news. We're on him for a second, and then he walks out. And this sort of plays out in a similar way. The mom is in there making a sandwich. She kind of like steps out of the scene.
Cutting a ham.
Cutting a ham.
She was cutting a ham.
Exactly. In the meantime, like Michael is walking into a garage, picking up a hammer. He walks into the house. And this thing, what I love, off screen, he commits this murder. He basically beats this woman to death with this hammer, drops it, and then picks up the knife, walks into the next room. There's a baby crying. And I will say, I was a little nervous to see what was going to happen in the scene.
I thought he was totally going to kill that baby.
There hasn't been a movie yet where we see Michael Myers kill a baby. And I thought, oh man, is this how far we're going to go now? Is Michael Myers from 40 years, 40 years older now, a much more deranged sort of figure or element? Doesn't kill, but it's a beautiful shot that then continues, and it's actually the sequence in the trailer that we see where Michael Myers comes through a doorway and he sort of exits out into the streets of Haddonfield and he's looking around. And it keeps going. It's still a single shot. He hears a car. He turns. He starts walking down the street. He's staring at this like couple who gets into a car. Just keeps staring and staring. So the thing that I guess I loved about it was the fact that it very much was playing with the idea of like, let's let the scene breathe.
Absolutely.
Let's let Michael Myers be the shape.
By the time he was staring at the couple at the car, no joke, I was creeped out to the point where I felt like somebody was gonna stab me in the back. Like, you know that feeling that you get, like just kind of uneasy. I was like,
behind me.
I was like, does somebody have a knife behind me? Because I feel like I'm about to get stabbed. And then when he goes up to the second house and you just see his reflection above the pumpkin, I was like, oh fuck, now this is some terrifying shit.
And it keeps going.
God,
It keeps going. So the shot famously in the trailer where you see the reflection of Michael Myers in the window, what's happening is there's a woman on a phone. She's taking a call. She's kind of pacing back and forth in her living room.
Here's about something going on.
You see Michael Myers' silhouette walk around the side of the house, in through the back somewhere. You don't really know where. This woman comes into the living room, goes to close the blinds, and as she does that, Michael grabs her from behind, starts smashing her head into like the edge of like the where the window is.
2 bashes.
And then what does he do?
Stabs her through the throat.
Through the throat.
One stab through the
brutally.
throat. Super brutal. I really enjoyed this, and there's a lot to unpack in this. If you really want to go break it down,
sure.
The performance of Mike Myers, sort of like in this, he was just like a barrel roll of, like, not even barrel roll, like a steamroller of death. Because you could tell that when he focuses and decides this is where I'm going to kill, he just won't stop. He's just, because you can see he stops. And then he looks to the house. He's like, this is where I'm going to do it. Everybody in there is going to die right now. And so he goes and kills everybody. I like that he didn't kill the baby because they're like, this is the line. We're not going to cross it. Move along. And so everything that they did in this was just brilliant. And that's why I got so creeped out. Because I know that they're doing it right.
Nick Castle back as Myers.
So that's the thing. That's the big thing. Nick Castle, who played Michael Myers in the original movie, is back. He's not playing the full performance. He's splitting it with a stuntman, which is normal. Michael Myers has been played by stuntmen in all the other subsequent sequels. But I love the fact that this is an opportunity to sort of really explore that and to see, like, okay, how would Michael Myers move 40 years later? Is it very much the same? And there are some similarities, but there are some differences. But it's like, it's really more about the shape, as they call him, and like how does he move around Haddonfield? How does he prey on people? And I think that was so powerful in the sequence. And the thing that I love so much was obviously the music. Once it gets into trailer mode, once we see this whole clip unfold, it gets into kind of the trailer version of it, and we hear the theme where Michael is stalking Laurie Strode, dun, 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 and I love that. It sorts of build the tension, and then we get that classic Carpenter theme. And it's like we were talking about. All the clips we see of Laurie Strode sort of armoring up, opening all these like panels of guns and weapons and stuff,
practicing guns, like
she is determined to kill this guy. This
She's
thing,
ready.
whatever
She's
this
ready.
thing is.
The shape.
But yeah, I think the combination of all that footage and the enthusiasm of the panel and the audience, the reaction was
Crowd
so
was super into it.
They were.
Talk about the crowd, Adam. Talk about the question the guy asks.
Oh my God! Yeah, I forgot to bring this up. So we get to the Q&A portion of Halloween, and a gentleman comes up to the speaker, and he says, "I know it was real intense." The gentleman goes up to the speaker and he says, Halloween means so much to me. And as he's saying that, he's starting getting really emotional. And I'm watching the screen, I'm going, what is he about to say? And he starts telling the story
he said he came down here just for
He came down here just for this.
Just for her.
Yes, just for Jamie Lee, just for this Halloween panel.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he said how long ago this was. I don't know if he states exactly.
He didn't say.
I
he
don't
just said a
recall.
couple years ago or something.
Yeah. But basically, he starts telling us the story of how someone on his street was running around with a knife and cut the phone lines to his house and basically broke into this house, and he had a knife. And the first thing that this guy said that he thought of was, what would Laurie Strode do in this situation? And so basically, he talks about how he's so thankful for Halloween.
And at
for
this
the character,
point, he's crying.
He's crying. He's bawling. He's full on crying. And he's so thankful for a character like Laurie and for the performance that Jamie Lee Curtis gave, because it really gave him sort of the strength to want to think of a solution and not become a victim. He wanted to become more. He wanted to basically to survive this. To survive this horrible thing that could potentially end his life. So the first thing he thought of, it mirrors very much the first Halloween movie where she grabs the knitting needle. And he grabs the knitting needle. He tries to run to the neighbor. Help me, call the police. Let me in. And they're like, we're not letting you in with a knitting needle. Very much the same thing that happens in Halloween. Laurie is screaming, trying to get help. No one is helping her. She's very much on her own. But yeah, it was just it was so moving and emotional to see this guy talk about how a character action and a decision that a character makes, the way the character is written, that she doesn't want to become a victim. She wants to overcome this.
What does Jamie Lee Curtis do?
Oh, Jamie Lee Curtis.
She's the best.
40 years of being Laurie Strode, being such a professional. I genuinely feel like, and you could feel it in the room, she was so moved by what he was saying. She left the stage. She walks down to meet him. And they're just hugging. They're talking. You can't hear what they're saying.
She's holding his face tenderly.
Him. Yeah, she's just I think whatever they exchanged, I'm sure it was a beautiful moment for both of them. They were hanging out there for a good couple of minutes, taking photos and talking and stuff. It was just a really heartfelt moment. And I know sometimes with movies we say it's just a movie, it's just a movie, it's just a movie. But when you really hear a story like that and you get sort of the perspective and the context, you realize that there are things about movies, certain things, elements, characters that can really move people or touch people in a certain way. And the fact that the first thing they thought of was, what would Laurie Strode do if someone with a knife is coming after you in a house? That's
the biggest thing for me that he said was, because of you, I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor.
Exactly.
And
he said, I'm a victor.
Victor.
Oh yeah,
Victor. That's right.
I'm
not a victim, I'm a victor.
Yeah. So that, to me, that quote right there was just wow, this is amazing.
Yeah. Amazing. And you can definitely tell that this is something the opportunity that he had, the fact that he had this opportunity to come to the panel. And was able to go up there and to actually say this, you can kind of feel man, this is something that's been manifesting in him for a while.
He had that inside him for a while.
And now finally he's like, wow, I have this moment to
shine.
Thank you for building a performance, and building a character that actually really stood for something, and it meant something to a lot of people, So it was a very moving panel. And for me, honestly, out of this whole Comic-Con, that was the best panel.
I agree. Best panel
I think
the con so far.
It had a 1-2 punch of the glass section, which we're going to talk about, was very good. The great trailer, really fun cast. Yvette Nicole Brown killed it. And then with this, and how powerful Jamie Lee Curtis was, and then the footage was great, and then that ending, it was a really kind of wall-to-wall, super strong panel. And I think Jamie Lee Curtis kind of came out, what we were talking about earlier, where Yvette Nicole Brown was oh, we're going to church. And Jamie Lee Curtis said, for her, the return to this character was more about doing a story where the victim can become owner of their own story.
Right. Owning, not letting that pain define her. Rather, getting over it and basically doing your own therapy and not letting it define you.
Yeah. So I'm very excited for this movie. It's October 19th. I think it's going to be great. I mean, everything we saw.
I'm so excited.
It was fantastic.
And it feels like now is sort of it's weird because sometimes these movies happen. and you look at sort of what's happening in culture and what's happening in the world. And it's amazing how sometimes these movies perfectly align themselves with what's happening in the world.
And she very smartly said, but I'm not talking about anything political.
Exactly.
But
like Jamie Lee Curtis is very outspoken, and she she has a powerful voice.
Oh, absolutely.
And when she says that, like, this is why I want to do this, you believe it.
Yeah.
You know, and you really, and especially like, you know, I think a lot of us out there, some people have mixed feelings about H2O.
Yeah.
Some people really like it. I think Halloween Resurrection, it felt like a real stab in the back with the way that character's death was handled and the sort of the ending story of Laurie Strode.
Yeah.
But I feel like now, because she really felt like there was something to say about the character, and this felt like a really good time.
Yeah.
That made me really excited about where we can see this story going. Yes, she does feel more of like a Sam Loomis type of character. But there's so much more that's different from Sam Loomis. Sam Loomis was a psychiatrist who had to sort of deal with who Michael Myers was and try to figure out who he is.
Right.
For Laurie, it's all about, no, I want to survive. And if Michael comes back, I want to defend myself and I want to stand for what I believe in, and that's survival.
I want to face it,
Exactly. Any other highlights out of that panel for you guys?
You hit all the good stuff for me.
Yeah, I feel like it's all there. I think I'm excited to see what the second trailer is going to be.
Definitely.
Yeah, super excited. I don't think this footage will come online because it's such an extended clip.
Yeah,
and violent.
Yeah, and violent.
Super violent.
Absolutely. But if there's some sort of version of it in a trailer, I cannot wait to see what you guys think about it. We loved it. I think it's going to be great. I cannot wait. There's also, if you're at Comic-Con and you're watching this, they are giving this poster away at one of the booths. Do you remember what booth we saw this at?
Bill Sienkiewicz's booth. Bill Sienkiewicz, the artist, has his own booth.
Yeah. Okay. And all they're doing is they're just scanning the QR code on the back of your badge, and they're giving away these posters. I think they're going to be doing it all weekend. You should definitely grab one. It's a beautiful piece of art, and we're super stoked. In the meantime, make sure you guys are subscribed right here to Hyper RPG. We're doing a whole lot of other coverage. We're doing IRL streaming on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/hyperrpg. Also, make sure you're following us on all social media, on Twitter, hyper_RPG, where we're keeping you guys up to date on everything that we're doing. We're dropping a whole bunch of videos, and then, tomorrow, Saturday, big Hall H day for Warner Brothers. It should be a lot of fun. And there's other people covering a whole bunch of other stuff. So please pay attention to what we're doing. We've got so much content coming out, and we can't wait to talk about other movies. So we'll see you in the next one.
Hey, what's up all you tabletop nerds out there? Zach here with a special San Diego Comic-Con announcement. Hyper RPG, Stoic, and Versus Evil are teaming up to bring you a Banner Saga mini-series starting next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Time, live on Twitch. We've got the amazing Andre the Black Nerd, Shovel, Lasercorn, Trisha Hirschberger, and Steve Zaragoza as our cast, and the one and only Adam Coble as our GM for this wonderful adventure. This will be a 4-part mini-series coming to you every consecutive Tuesday from 7 to 10 p.m. Pacific Time, and you're going to want to get in there and watch it live because you, as a viewer, get to become a part of their caravan, making decisions that will drastically affect the overall story. This is all to celebrate the final installment in the Banner Saga series, Banner Saga 3, coming out on July 26th on all platforms. What better way to celebrate the amazing world of Banner Saga than through a tabletop RPG? We are so excited to bring this to you all. Make sure to tune in live on Tuesday after Comic-Con and every following Tuesday for 4 weeks, but if you miss it, don't fret, it'll be going up on YouTube immediately after.